everyone, welcome back to another episode of Talking Tongue, the weekly quarantine show where I get to talk to my friends near and far to talk about movies, anime. I see Goku in the back of this screen here, Pokemon. This is really fitting because this episode today is going to be full of anime, everyone's favorite genre of movie and TV and all that stuff. It certainly is for me anyways, and that's the truth. But my friend today, I really haven't seen in a big hot minute. And I was thinking, I'm like, I have my friends coming from, like I said, near and far to talk on this show, Talking Tongue. But this friend I haven't seen, like you live pretty close to me and I haven't seen you because, well, when are we actually going to get together? And I'm going to make it happen anyways. I'm like, you're going to come on the show and we're going to catch up here. Everybody, I'm talking about first time podcaster, podcaverner, Jacob Barrick, everyone.
Yes. Hello. Hi, Tongue.
Hi, Jacob.
Yeah, you haven't seen me lately, but I've seen you.
Whoa.
I saw the
you're
show
right
you
there.
did
Holy
last
shit.
week. Yeah.
No, Jesus Christ, Jake. Yes.
Yeah.
How did you get the cameras installed, first of all, on my property without me seeing it? And I see it right now, but I can't tear it off my trees and my property.
Well, I don't want to give away too many secrets, but I think the real core thing is that I don't really sleep at night. So I got to do something. I've got cameras installed in all my friends' houses. If you're my friend, you're listening to this, just be aware. Watching you.
Wow. Yeah. So you can't sleep. So you install cameras for other people so they also can't sleep because they know you're watching.
And it's perfect because if they're awake, they're going to message me being like, hey, can't sleep, want to hang out. Then it's good for me.
Jake, it really has been a long time since I've seen you. We've met in the KW improv scene and Guelph, like this whole like Tri-City area of just improv with the Making Box and such. So like for yourself, you're an improviser, although it might have been a hot minute since you've done any improv. How long has it been since you've done improv, really?
Well, throughout the pandemic, I've taken a bunch of online classes. But over the last few months, I've taken a bit of a break. Just needed a bit more time to relax and not put so much pressure on myself. So, figured why not do a podcast?
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I've been taking a bunch of classes. They were really great. Early on, I was still doing the online battalion stuff with the Making Box, which was very fun, and just watching shows whenever I can.
Right. Yeah. The online classes is something that a lot of theaters and just places in general have been doing as a way for people to still engage with their content and for people to continue learning through the pandemic. And I've certainly taken a few online courses, although I think online burnout is quite a real thing. Very fortunate to have a job where I can work from home and whatnot.
Likewise.
And I don't mind looking at a screen. It's kind of like after I'm done looking at my work screen, I'm looking at a TV to watch something or play video games. But something about the commitment of like a webcam interaction, there's only so much you can do in a day. So I also kind of fell off of all of that because I'm like, I can't put my face on this webcam anymore. Did you feel that as well?
Yes, for sure. That was, I think, the thing that stopped me from doing improv. At some point, I just was like, I need to take a step back, spend less time doing this. Because I know a lot of people who struggled with the online improv format. It just like they didn't click with it. I personally never found it too difficult. Like I still enjoyed it. It still felt like improv to me. But the big part that was missing was just social time. Like, because I'm a very social person. I'm an extrovert. I get my energy from other people and I just couldn't get it through the screen. So it was tough to keep on doing those improv classes without getting all of that back. So that's how I experienced the burnout.
Right. And Jake, you are when you are performing in person, you like to kiss people on stage, like full on
Absolutely.
make out with them. And you can't
Yeah, yeah.
do that on webcam. And you got really disappointed and threw your camera to the wall.
Yeah. Well, that's why my webcam sucks. I tried to put it in my mouth. It wasn't the same, and I chucked it against the wall.
Do you think there's a market for webcams that when you put your mouth to the lens, it like grasps your lips and kind of vibrates a little bit? And if someone does it on the other end, they get the same feedback?
You know what's funny? I think that does exist.
Get
I'm
out of
pretty
here.
sure I remember I've seen like videos of like lip simulator things, like where somebody can kiss it on one side and then on the other side it will simulate the lips.
Yes, I've seen stuff like that. I just didn't know if that was in webcam form because that's freaking crazy.
That's what they need to do though. Yeah. Put it
That's what they got.
around the
Million
lens.
dollar idea. That's how we bring improv to the next level online.
Yeah, that's the only thing missing. That's how you can get everyone truly connecting with each other. It's not about eye contact when you're online. It's about
No.
lip contact.
That's right. And then if you pay the extra, like let's say $50 to $100, you can install like a wet hose to the webcam that's also spits in your mouth as you're doing it. But it's safe,
Yeah.
it's a hose. It's not like an actual someone's like saliva. You're not going to get COVID out of it. Wow.
COVID safe spitting mechanism. If you're listening to this and you're an inventor, contact us.
Yep.
Patent pending on all this stuff. So, don't steal it.
Don't steal it, please. This is the only good idea I've ever had. Jake, so like what else? For the people who don't know who you are, obviously we've kind of alluded that you've done improv and, you have anime stuff in the back and all that stuff. But what else makes Jake tick?
Uh-oh. You said improv and anime, and I don't know what else to say. Actually, well, I do like anime, but I'm actually not as into anime as some other people. I'm definitely into video games, tabletop role-playing games.
Great.
Dungeons and Dragons. If you want some semi-hot takes on role-playing games, come talk to me, because Dungeons and Dragons, it's okay. There are better games.
That's fair. We've Blades in the Dark is the one that I've been starting to get into a little bit. But this is good. This is good because I think, first of all, the pandemic has done a really cool thing where Dungeons and Dragons has always been famously made fun of over the years. But through popular culture, and especially through the pandemic, people have opened their arms to Dungeons and Dragons and tabletop games and role-playing games in such a way that it's like, I don't give a shit if Dungeons and Dragons is like, let's just say your basic ass tabletop game. Like I still have a lot of fun with it whenever I do play with it. But it's just so cool that people are finally accepting that into the main culture. Do you feel that as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. I will talk shit about Dungeons and Dragons sometimes, but it's such a perfect way to get people into the hobby. Yeah. Because it's just become more inclusive. More inclusive people are playing it, and people are really making it their own. And that honestly, that's one of my criticisms, that you kind of need to hack the game in order to make it whatever you want it to be. But people are more than willing to do that. And so everyone's coming into play. All your favorite podcasts are doing it. I'm sure there's a tabletop tongue on the horizon.
I should steal that. Yes. Yeah, I think it is cool because like I do see people who I have never seen play any of that type of game before. And now they're like, oh, you're telling me we can use our imagination and a couple dice to craft this world and just basically live in a better world, arguably, than the one we live in now, even though there's monsters and whatnot and all this other stuff. I think it's just an incredible thing that people are starting to, and same with video games too. Like throughout the pandemic, you find more people are flocking to ways to kind of engage in like a simulated world. And I wonder as we get closer to the end of the pandemic, if there is a true end to it, hopefully there is, but do people start reverting away from this stuff? Was this just kind of like a distraction and now they'll just be like, make fun of Dungeons and Dragons and all that stuff all over again?
I don't think so. And I think like this kind of relates back to the online improv as well. Like some people are using this as a distraction, sure. But the people who are really engaging with it and really letting themselves experience it are finding new things, new exciting things to grab onto, to add into their list of hobbies. I think online improv, tabletop role-playing games, video games, they're all going to keep with a lot of people, even if some people do drop off of them.
Yeah.
And that's exciting. Very exciting.
It's exciting. Absolutely. It's exciting that the nerds have won. And we've started to see this when Iron Man 1 came out, when you're like, wait a second, a big comic book movie, and look at us now. There's comic book everything nowadays. Exactly. And truthfully, I love it because I'm also a big nerd. But it is cool that we've taken over.
Yes, we finally won. We've ingrained ourselves in popular culture. You can't get us out anymore. We're here. Exactly. Now I feel like it's one of those things like the Batman quote where it's like, now we're going to live long enough to see ourselves become the villain and everything crashes down and something else will take us over. But that's okay. That's okay. Jake, what are the other things in life, or we could still talk about this too, but like, what are the things that keep you motivated? Like we are really second doses, at least in Ontario, and that's where we live, are starting to come out way earlier, which thankfully it's happening, than expected. So, people are getting second vax sooner and all this stuff. We are starting to see that maybe we can all like go out for Halloween, for God's sake, like that we might be in that era. So what are the things that are keeping you, motivated and happy and ready to go for the inevitable end of the pandemic? Motivation, I think, is such a tough thing for me because it's so fleeting right now. I either have no motivation or I'm incredibly motivated on like one specific thing. Mm-hmm. But just talking in terms of like what has me excited for the end of everything is like just being able to be around people, like be close to people. I went to downtown Guelph the other day to pick up some food, and patios were open. And the patios were absolutely packed. It was like kind of scary how packed they were. But I had my mask on and I had to walk by to get into the pizza shop. And I found myself weirdly tearing up because I was surrounded by people and it felt so comfortable. So I was both terrified and incredibly cozy and happy at the same time. Right. But yeah, that's what has me motivated. Just like being in a big group of people and not being scared, like actually being able to physically interact with people. Yeah. Be close to them.
Yeah. It is exciting. I filmed a wedding over this weekend and that was crazy. For those of you who don't know, I also do part-time videography, or that was a big part of my life for a very long time. I filmed weddings. I did a bunch of videos for like sketches and comedy and music videos and corporate. I've done everything, and weddings was the moneymaker. So, and also I enjoyed it, but people started to cancel their weddings or move it and like wanted a smaller thing. And I was like, okay, I guess I'm not doing this anymore. And then one finally happened and I'm like, oh, I guess this is super weird, because part of me is like, this is exciting. I get to film again. Ooh, I don't know if I remember how. And I don't know if I want to see anyone, even though I want to see people. I also don't want to see people. It's one of those
I get
the pandemic
has, sure.
The pandemic has really shifted my mindset of being like, I feel like I might have a panic attack like in the middle of like, and I've never really had a real one before, but like, I feel like my heart's beating really quick when I see a lot of people in one spot for too long, right? In close proximity. But as the day moved on, and even though COVID weddings are different and kind of really weird. I mean, there are bridal masks now. That's a weird thing.
Is it like a veiled mask that it's like the full veil coming down from it?
It looks like a dress, but in mask form.
Whoa.
Like it looks like just that pattern of laciness and stuff. It like technically looks beautiful, but then you think about like, well, that wouldn't have existed pre-COVID, right? So it's like weird. But yeah, anyways, as the time went on and during the wedding, I was like, this feels familiar. So I feel like that's going to happen as we, start to see more people and all that stuff, where at the beginning will definitely feel weird. but we give it some time and it'll feel comforting again. And that's what I'm hoping will happen when we start seeing people at theaters and shows and all that stuff again.
Movie theaters. Movie theaters and live performances. Both of those things are so exciting to me.
Yes, as long as people don't use their phone at the movie theaters. People on Talking Tongue know that I hate people who talk during movies and people who have to Instagram during movies. Like, what is that? What is that? Anyways.
You might not like my wife.
Oh no. Oh no.
I've gotten a bit used to it. Being at home watching movies has actually been, I've gotten more used to it because like it's so comfortable at home, but we can also pause whatever we're watching. It's not a big deal. So like when we watch things, I am usually the one to press pause because I'm like, you have something to say and I don't want to miss the show. But like we frequently will pause it and talk about things that are currently happening, have in-depth conversations, sometimes to the point where I'm like, okay, we've been talking for 10 minutes. Can we hit play again?
That's interesting. But yes, Laura does this too. We can't even get through an episode of like Schitt's Creek or something without her picking up her phone. And then like the side of my eyes, like, what are you doing? We are in a sacred moment. Movies and TV, they demand our attention. We can talk about it afterwards. And I see her on like Marketplace and stuff like that. But I mean, like at the movie theaters, like there's something about home life. To a degree, I think it's fine. You know, like if people like pause, it's totally fine. I pause to go to the bathroom during movies at home. And I don't usually look at my phone because I'm very want to be sucked into the movie. That's that's what I want. But at a movie theater, nah. Yeah. I can see your phone. Turn it on like the most like dim light. I see it. We all see it, right?
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I guess we're not that bad. It's definitely just like a home thing. But Tasha, she likes to talk through the movie. So like even at a movie theater, she'll like whisper things to me and that's okay. As long as it doesn't take too long.
As long as it's a whisper.
And a whisper and like you're not like demanding my full attention, but like she will talk to the screen. And so being at home has like changed how we watch movies. It might be weird going back now. we're gonna have to go to a movie and I'm gonna have to talk to her, be like, okay, so we're out in public.
I would love to hear that. It's like, Jake, it's happening. The thing I talked about 10 seconds ago, it's happening. You need to like develop a Morse code or something.
We just tap each other's hands and that's how we communicate.
Exactly.
It'll be really funny if we're in the movie. We were almost like that during the last Star Wars episode 9.
Yep.
We weren't fully talking, but like we both thought it was ridiculous and we did not like it at all. So we were laughing constantly in a silent theater watching the new Star Wars movie. And I felt bad about it because like, these people are here to enjoy their Star Wars, but like, I just couldn't help it. It was all so ridiculous to me.
Yeah. I don't like thinking about that movie.
Let's move on.
Yes. Nope. Now you got me thinking about it. I will say right now, as I watched it, I'm like, this is a fine movie. It's fine. Like not and then you think about it some more and then you're like, well, why did this happen? But that doesn't make sense. Why do they have to like do a thing here? Well, and then you start like really picking it apart and you're like, I can't, I got to step away from this. Maybe people enjoy it in like 10 years from now. You know how like, everyone shat on the prequels when it first came out. And then this new sequel came out and everyone's like, you know what, though? Those prequels, not so bad.
They're still bad.
They're kind of bad, but like they're not so bad.
They're full of memes, though, and like memorable lines. Even like if you can enjoy something that's not good, then you're set for life. Yeah. Right? Like there's the whole concept of like good, bad, and bad.
Yeah.
I think the prequels are good, bad. Absolutely.
You probably didn't think that at the time, though.
I was a kid at the time. So I think I probably thought they were good at the time.
Oh, yeah. At the time, you're like, pod racing? Are you kidding me? Look at this. That's my favorite N64 game.
Oh, look how cool Anakin is. Oh, they're having a 12-minute lightsaber fight. This is the best.
All right, let's get into the news of the week. Of course, every week on Talking Tongue, we just talk about pop culture news of the week. The real news of the week is very depressing, so let's not go in there. Let's go into pop culture news, things that are fluffy. They're kind of nice And they're just headlines that I'm pulling from IGN.com. They do all the work for me because I don't want to do it myself. I'm not a journalist. So here we go. My first headline for you, Jake, is the Pokemon Company reveals a brand new Pikachu themed plane. What? A plane that's just full of Pikachus on the outside. How do you feel?
I love it. I want to be in the Pikachu plane. Is the inside also Pikachu themed?
You know what? I don't know that, but I'm going to assume no.
But what if though? Because wouldn't that be great? Like it's not just a plane; it's a whole experience. It's the only plane that comes with Pokemon Go, equipped in the plane, so you can play the whole way through. There's Pokestops. There's Team Rocket will show up.
Right. Wouldn't it suck if you had to ride the Pokemon plane to catch like exclusive Pokemon Go Pokemon?
Oh my god! Kind of like going to EB Games to get like the rare shinies that they offer.
Good Lord, I haven't thought about that in a good long time.
Oh, imagine being the one guy who's like, I need to get home. I'm like, I missed my other flight. I need to get home. The only plane available is this Pikachu plane. All right, fine, I'll take it. And you get on and there's a bunch of friggin' Pokemon nerds and weebs, and he's just the one man in a suit with his suitcase and laptop. He's like, can you keep it down? I'm trying to work.
Yeah, yes. But why would that guy be riding the Pokemon plane?
It's the only one that will get him home in time for Christmas.
Right. Oh, good call. It reminds me of, you just gave me flashbacks because we've always talked about Pokemon Go to some extent on the show here and there, but like you just gave me flashbacks when people not only bought like just an obscene amount of external batteries for their phones for Pokemon Go, but do you remember the people who got super intense that have it's like a claw almost where it had like multiple like hands sticking out to hold like 10 phones at once. And so you're able to like basically multi-game a bunch of phones playing Pokemon Go at one time. And I thought that was like amazingly stupid.
Wait, how does that work? Is it like one joystick in the middle and it controls like a fake finger on every phone?
I've only seen it in the distance. I've never seen it up front. But what I've understood was just like you have it, you're holding this thing that looks like, I guess, like a fancy candle, and it like spreads out and stuff like that. And then you just have a bunch of phone holders. And I guess you just do it one at a time with your own hand. But, you know, you're able to enter raids by yourself. So that's cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Would you buy one of those?
If I was more into Pokemon Go, yes, but I haven't played it in a while.
Is there another purpose for a contraption such as that?
I don't know. Like, can you like use their parallel processing to like mimic a computer and play computer games on it? Oh, you have all the screens next to each other and they make up one big monitor, and you can play Cyberpunk on it.
Sure. Like, you know, when you go to let's say the gym. It's been a long time since I've been to the gym, but you know, like there's like at a gym or some big arena, if you will, they'll have like 10, 50-inch monitors next to each other, making up a giant screen. You're thinking about that for the Pokemon Go thing?
Yes. Yeah. Wow. And it uses all of the phone processors in parallel to simulate one better processor.
Wow. The future, everyone.
Yeah, we won't need computers in the future. It will just be a lot of smartphones.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, here we go. I have another one for you, and that is MCU prequels are possible for more characters after Black Widow. Do you want to see more prequels?
Is this like exclusively for dead characters?
Maybe. Let's. I don't know. It could be. I guess that's the only reason why you'd want to look at a prequel series, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Because in general, like I actually think prequels are usually fairly weak because there's not a lot of tension, and usually they're not trying to tell us a story. It's like, how did Han Solo get his ship? It's like, yeah, we know he got the ship. So it's not super relevant. You could just like tell me and that'd be fine. Mm-hmm. But I really like prequels that tell a unique story that's like, it's not how did he get the ship, but like what other things happened in his life at that time that are important and relevant.
Yes.
Like it has to be a good story on its own and not just a means to establish some other plot point, right?
Right. Now you got me thinking about Solo, the movie. Lots of Star Wars talk today. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'd be fine. I mean, I don't know if I need to see movies. They could do the Disney Plus TV shows for the prequels. That's fine with me. If they want to do like how to Captain America bring back the hammer story, which they people were like kind of theory crafting at the end of Endgame, where he has the hammer, he goes back in time to place all the Infinity Stones back. Look at me nerding out here. If they want to show that story, sure, whatever. But I'm never dying to in general dying to see a prequel to something.
Yeah. I think TV shows are actually probably the way to go for prequels.
Yeah,
because TV shows I think are generally, you can take them a little less seriously and you can have a lot more fun with them.
Yeah, exactly. You have more time to have fun with them, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, Vin Diesel says he showed The Rock tough love in Fast and Furious feud. How much do you know about this feud?
Nothing.
Okay.
I almost know nothing about Fast and the Furious as well, other than that, like, my wife and then, like, some friends in town, they've been trying to get through the whole series, having never seen it. But I wasn't there for it.
Well, I love Fast and the Furious. I think it's super dumb if you were looking for, like, it's basically turned into live action anime, Fast and Furious. So
let me jump in real quick, because, like, I was at these friends' house yesterday, and I know COVID, like, we're being safe. We're kind of working on the bubble rules. For those wondering, we're being safe. But because I had missed the first, like, they were watching 7 and I missed the first 6. So I wasn't going to actually watch the movie. I ended up just playing on my Switch. But every time I looked up, it felt like an anime. Exactly what you're saying. Just like the way people interact with each other, the way the characters are even presented, like the villains, and the action that happens. It's just anime, but live action with cars and for a different audience who doesn't realize they like anime.
Yeah. So next time you have the opportunity, Jake, to watch Fast and Furious, you take it. It's anime. That's all it is. Like, in the first Fast and Furious, it's all about, like, which car is faster? Let's do like a street race. That's not the actual plot. There's some of that, but there's also like, a cop undercover trying to, like, get dirt on Vin Diesel a little bit and whatever. Oh no, now they're friends. How are you going to arrest him if you're friends? That kind of thing. But then as the time goes on,
Diesel. Sorry, continue.
No. I'm just saying, you already know where I'm going with this. It gets ridiculous.
I'm just comparing it to, like, Dragon Ball Z in my head, because, like, Vin Diesel is basically Goku, who just, like, no matter who he fights, they become his friend in the end.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, they become there. Well, he's less charismatic than Goku, I would say.
Yeah.
But he would think they're family by the end.
Family, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I feel like whenever they use NOS, that's the equivalent of them going Super Saiyan.
Yes. But I don't know if they go do NOS anymore. I think they probably do. They probably go, like, whatever illegal rocket fuel they have.
Oh yeah, because it's Super Saiyan 3 now.
Yeah, exactly. They're like, well, this fuel we have was taken from Mars core, and Tesla fueled fucking whatever. Yeah. And we're using it to trampoline off of a helicopter and onto a submarine or something stupid.
Yeah. I caught a scene when I looked up yesterday, where Shaw, I guess, what's the actor's name?
Is Shaw Jason Statham?
Statham. Yeah, Jason Statham. He threw a grenade, and the grenade basically blew up a whole building.
Yes,
that's not how grenades work, but that's the anime aspect of it. It's like,
yeah, but what if it was a NOS grenade?
I made that joke actually. I'm like, no, they must be filled with NOS.
Yeah. I love it. I think it doesn't have to make sense. If it made sense, you know what? Like in Hobbs and Shaw, which is like, when I watched it, I'm like, this is really dumb. I love it. I know a lot of people hate it because of whatever, but I loved it. Super stupid. They do the Captain America thing in Winter Soldier, where Captain America, for people who don't know, Winter Soldier, he like bicep curls a helicopter near him. And it's like, this is sick. Look, Chris Evans, he freaking goes for it. His like veins are going nuts, and he bicep curls the helicopter and he smashes it basically. The Rock does the same thing in Fast and Furious, Hobbs and Shaw. I'm like, you're not a super soldier. This makes no sense.
He basically is. He flexed out of a cast.
That's true. Yeah, it's best not to think about the realism of the Fast and Furious franchise.
Just enjoy it, right?
That's right.
Yeah. I want to watch it from the beginning, which is why I wasn't paying attention, but I know I would love it.
You would.
Yeah.
The beginning is good, and then it gets kind of like these movies kind of suck. But when you watch them as a whole, you can compare them, and you're like, well, I guess it doesn't suck that much.
You know what? That makes me think of something else. But I did want to know, what was this feud they had?
Oh, yes, of course, the feud. Yes. Long story short, because it's been a while since I've even thought about this feud, which is like Vin Diesel and The Rock were fighting with each other because essentially the Hobbs and Shaw stuff was spinning out of Fast and Furious, and Vin Diesel has a huge stake in Fast and Furious, right? This is his thing. He created it. Paul Walker, like this was their baby. And then when the bigger studios were like, hey, we want to make more money by making Fast and the Furious spin-offs, Vin Diesel was not happy about it. And they were like, no way, like it's all about family. And you're betraying the family right now, Rock. And that's kind of where it spun out. And I forget exactly how things went. I think they're good now, but it was kind of like, do not make a spin-off. You were a one-shot character in one of the movies. Yeah, you were popular, and we brought you back for another movie, but it wasn't meant to be like this, where you got your own movie outside of my movies, kind of thing. So, yeah, that's what it was.
They probably just sat down. They had a Corona, and then they were good.
I just think they just mean mugged each other until one of them broke. And then never talked to each other for a while. But, Hobbs and Shaw did happen, and it probably made enough money for Hobbs and Shaw too. So whatever,
True. Yeah. So the thing I thought of just talking about Fast and Furious, I don't think it had nearly as much of the same impact on culture because people were upset that it didn't do the video games justice. But the Resident Evil movies,
oh God,
I feel like those are the same as Fast and the Furious.
I don't know. Those movies are bad.
They get more and more ridiculous. I think they're good bad. Okay. And one thing we could do a whole. I know we're not here to talk about Resident Evil, but I could talk about those movies a lot. The thing I love the most about them is that every single movie is different.
Okay. You should have, we'll talk about the movie later today, but now I feel like we should have talked about Resident Evil today. Because I remember
just gonna have to invite me back.
Yes, I will. And then, oh God, did we watch every single Resident Evil movie for this show? God damn it.
Absolutely.
There's like,
we've seen them before, so
I've watched the first two and I'm like, these are bad.
What? You got to keep watching then. They get ridiculous.
I gotta keep watching.
You gotta keep watching them.
Listen, I love Resident Evil, but I'm like, these movies aren't really Resident Evil. Kind of weird.
Yeah. Just completely detach the idea that they're Resident Evil from your brain. They're gonna steal things from Resident Evil, but it's not Resident Evil.
It's kind of like when she did Monster Hunter as well, and I love Monster Hunter, but I heard the movie is absolutely garbage.
Yeah, I bet it's that. It's like that. Same director too.
Yeah, her husband.
Yeah.
Oh God. Okay. Let's see. Let's do two more news stories. Nothing huge here, but Space Jam: A New Legacy. If people who don't know, people do know this, but for the people who listen to the show, I adore Space Jam. It's my guilty pleasure. It's just I freaking love it. People try to tell me Space Jam's a bad movie. You're a bad movie. Space Jam's an incredible movie.
You're a bad movie. Whoever said that.
Yeah.
Stop listening to this podcast. It's not for you.
Yeah, that's right. But Space Jam: A New Legacy. We'll see where it goes. But guess what? Even if you don't like the new movie, which we'll see, I'm holding out. I'm not going to say I'm going to love it instantly, but I'm giving it buying it day one, just because. That's how much I love Space Jam. Space Jam: A New Legacy. Even if you don't like the movie, guess what? They're making an arcade beat 'em up for Xbox based on fan ideas. I don't know what that means, but it looks like, yeah, it's just looks like a 2D beat 'em up game with LeBron James.
Wait, so it's not a basketball game?
Nope. I'm looking at the screenshots here. We have Lola Bunny jump kicking what looks like a cobra snake thing. We have LeBron James uppercutting some feathery monster dude. There does not look to be any basketball in any of these shots.
What the hell?
How do you feel?
Did you ever play that SNES Looney Tune basketball game?
No.
It was, and I was a kid at the time, so my memories on this are skewed, but I remember really liking it because it's just like, it's 3v3 basketball, and then every single character has like a special move. And it was really fun, even though I'm not really into sports. It was super cool. So like, as soon as you said Space Jam video game, I'm imagining that, like, oh, cool. It's just Looney Tunes basketball. It's going to be basketball in air quotes. And then there's just a bunch of Looney Tunes stuff that happens in between.
Right. So now I picture that exact game, strip out the basketball, strip out everything that you said, and put in a beat 'em up instead. Now are you excited?
No.
Okay, great. What if his LeBron James's special move is he takes out a basketball because he has to, right? Oh, he has to.
Yeah, he has to. Yeah.
And he dunks the enemy, and their blood goes everywhere on the screen.
Oh my god! Oh, this is an rated M game. Yeah. Okay, I'm interested.
Okay, good. If it's not, well, it's not going to be M rated. But if it was, that would be you got me again. That'd be amazing.
I'm back in. Just when I thought I was out.
Yeah, exactly. You know what? There are some other things here, but I think we've, you know what? Actually, let's do one more story here because I've never even heard of this. Halo, the TV series.
Halo is a video game?
Halo's a video game, first of all. I know some people are like, talk about the Shang-Chi trailer. I didn't watch it, so I know there's a spoiler there. I don't want to spoil it for other people who haven't seen the trailer. We're not going to talk about that.
Well, hang on. We can talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
I'm in the camp, like, trailers are super fun and cool. But I'm in the camp that if you already know you're going to see a movie, don't watch the trailer.
I'm almost the same way. I love watching trailers, but I like watching the first one, whether that's the teaser trailer or the official first trailer. Like Shang-Chi already had a teaser trailer, which I don't know the difference because they're like, here's trailer number 1. I'm like, but the teaser trailer was 2 minutes long. That's a trailer. So what are we talking about here? So I watched the teaser trailer, really hyped about it. Now I'm good because now I don't want to see it.
Yeah, okay. Cool.
But I usually like to watch the first one just because
I agree.
Give myself an appetite for it,
Yeah, I guess for something that you don't know.
Yeah.
It makes sense. But like for me, like when we're back on Star Wars, but when episode 8 was coming out, I'm like, I'm not going to watch the trailer. I'm already excited for it. I know it's coming out and I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
And I probably should have watched the trailer because
that's another conversation. Wow. Lots of Star Wars talk today. The Halo TV series.
Yes.
Guess what? Didn't even know it was happening, but guess what? It's losing both of its showrunners. Oh my God. Oh no. The video game adaptations for things, they try and try again. Sometimes they're better than others. Sonic the Hedgehog, for example. I love that film. I think it's great. It's great.
I want to though.
It's great. It's on Prime. It's probably the best representation of what a video game property adaptation should be because it's just fun.
And we don't want to encourage boycotting the studio.
Yeah.
But it seems to have worked.
Yeah. But Halo, the TV series, are you bummed? Even if you never heard that they were doing this in the first place?
I'm not huge into Halo, but I do think it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just like what I do know about it is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That sucks. I'm not upset, but that sucks.
Okay.
For a lot of people. I know there's a lot of people who really love Halo, and that's only going to make this worse.
Sure. So my question to you is, who do you want to play Master Chief? And I know you don't watch, like I played Halo 3 with my friend on his Xbox, and that's all Halo I've ever played in my life. But
Yeah.
Master Chief, for people who don't know, he's kind of like your Mandalorian. He never takes off his helmet, although the Mandalorian takes off his helmet many times now. But who do you want underneath there? Not Pedro Pascal, someone else.
Well, I think just never take off the helmet.
Yep.
To start, because we don't need to see him. That's not the point. With the Mandalorian, I think he had to eventually, just based on the way that show goes.
Yep.
Never take off the helmet. Get James Earl Jones.
Oh, that is good. Do like a Darth Vader type of thing.
Yeah. Maybe it's a little too
on the nose.
But I think.
What if he did the Mufasa voice instead?
Aren't they all just his voice?
It is all his voice, but I wanted to see
just without the breathing.
Yeah, do the Mufasa thing, and then it'll really throw you off. Be like, wait a second, what's going on here? I was thinking Danny DeVito.
Yes, like how they wanted him for Pikachu.
Yes,
that would have been so good.
Throw me a curveball. That would be great.
Yeah. Oh, I'm in for that. That sounds awesome.
Okay, Jake, we are here for a reason. Of course, we've been.
Yes.
We talked a lot about everything, and there's only one thing that matters today, and that's our movie of the week. Do you want to set us up? You're the one who chose it. So how about you introduce the movie, tell us why you chose it, and just a little bit about the movie.
Okay, so I picked the movie Porco Rosso. This is a Studio Ghibli movie on Netflix. It's about Porco Rosso, our title character. He was a fighter pilot in World War I, now turned bounty hunter who fights and kind of captures sea pirates and sky pirates, or sky sea pirates.
Yeah, that's basically.
And it's kind of just about kind of his exploits, like without telling what the whole movie's about.
Yeah,
I guess he has a rivalry with an American pilot.
Yes,
and that's kind of what it's about. I picked this movie. I actually sort of got my wife to pick this movie because what we've been doing, we've never seen any Ghibli movies before this year. We started watching Ghibli movies 2021 because we've heard so much about them. We needed some positivity in our lives. So we just went on Netflix, typed in Ghibli, and started watching all the ones whose titles we recognized.
Yeah.
We're past that point now. We're past the point of recognizing titles. And now all we have to go on is the title, like the screenshot of the movie. And we've decided we're not going to look into descriptions. We're not going to look into reviews. We're just going to pick them based on which pictures we like best.
I love it.
So in this case, my wife she said, these three look good to me. And I'm like, let's go with the Pig Mafia one. It's not even about Pig Mafia.
No, but the pig with the Netflix dapper mustache, and dope ass pilot glasses.
Yeah, and in the screenshot on Netflix, he's holding like this giant machine gun. It looked very mafioso to me, but he's a pilot.
Yeah,
and a good guy, and the main character. Which I wasn't really expecting, but yeah.
Right. Yes. So let's talk about the Ghibli films a little bit. We've done on Talking Tongue your classic Princess Mononoke before, but we've never done another Ghibli film on this show before. I've seen many of them, but at the same time, I haven't. Man, like I've seen a lot of Ghibli films, but there are way more Ghibli films than I thought. Like there's like 45 of them, or like there's a lot. And I'm like, oh, aren't there like 10? No, there's more. So
10 memorable ones, I think.
That's right. But I guess with that said, like off the top of your head, which ones have you seen?
Okay. Oh, I knew I should have written this down. Okay. So we started with Totoro. Then from there, we went to Kiki's Delivery Service. Then Howl's Moving Castle. Then Spirited Away. Then Castle in the Sky. Then I don't remember the order after that, but we've also seen Ponyo. We've seen Nausicaa of the Wind Valley, which I think is technically not Ghibli, but made by the people before Ghibli.
Oh,
maybe?
Okay. I thought it was, but I could be wrong.
It's basically a Ghibli movie.
Yeah. So you've seen
And
a
I'm
lot.
probably I've seen a lot. I think I'm forgetting some. Maybe those are the less good ones that I'm not remembering.
Sure. Is there a favorite of that from that group that you really like?
I think I don't know if my favorite is either Kiki's Delivery Service or Spirited Away.
Right. Both are phenomenal films.
Yes.
Now, this week we watched Rosso. I've been
Oh,
saying
Porco
Rosso, but
Rosso.
I could be
Porco Rosso. Yeah.
whatever. It's
He's Italian.
Italian, exactly. Which it's like 1930s Italy that we're dealing with, which is like
Yeah,
really
yeah.
cool because I was like not
Yeah.
expecting an Italian backdrop to this film.
Me
I
either.
also never heard of this movie. Maybe I should have, being like the anime guy. Forgive me, everyone at home, but like I was just so excited to just dive into with Ghibli films. Like they're always so creative with their world building and where they throw you into, and I just love that. And like, I guess without spoiling the film yet, did you like this film?
I did. Although I will say, out of the Ghibli movies,
Mhm.
relatively, it's I think one of the worst that I've seen.
Mm,
But that's relative. And
right.
so, like, one of the worst Ghibli movies I've seen still is a very enjoyable movie that made me feel things.
Sure. Weaker maybe movies.
Weaker, yeah,
Yeah.
not worse.
Yeah.
Weaker.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. For me, like I also really like this film. I don't think it like tops any of the other films that you've mentioned. Like,
Yeah.
and those movies, I think I agree with you there that like relative to other Ghibli films, like maybe doesn't stand as high, but there's something really special about this film. And I can't pinpoint it, but I think it's just like how much they love planes in this movie and like the movement of the planes and how they look and how they like fly. And like just with all Ghibli films, especially like 1992, that's what we're talking about here. It's just drawn so beautifully.
hmm
It's
you
incredible.
you mentioning the planes, like it's funny because like having watched a bunch of them in quick successions, the Studio Ghibli love planes in general. There
Yeah.
are so many movies that are just sky ships.
Yeah.
And so like when it was planes, I'm like, okay, so it's kind of sky ships, but it's a lot more grounded in reality, which is like speaking of like creative settings, was completely unexpected for me because they're usually like they're grounded movies most of the time, but this is like almost entirely like historical Italy
Yeah.
with a couple of creative flares.
Hmm.
Obviously, there's a pigman.
There's a pig man. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Which, I mean, well, we can get into that in a little bit because I think that's a whole conversation.
Yeah.
But this whole, like, I'll just set it up a little bit. This idea of having a pig main character is way less of a focus of this movie
Mhm.
than I thought it would be. You
Yeah.
know, like they do mention that he's a pig quite a number of times, but it's not really like that's not like it's not like a fantastical world of like different types of creatures. There's just like humans and a pig guy.
And then one pigman.
One pig man who was a human.
Yeah.
And we don't even really get, and this is a spoiler, so here we go. We don't really get why he turned into a pig man.
Yeah.
He
So
doesn't really explain it.
We can talk about that, but I
Yeah,
think
we maybe
let's talk about everything else first.
we'll talk about everything else afterwards. So, Jake, how did you? I guess no. I'll start with this. What are your favorite moments in this film?
Oh, okay. So near the end, I guess we're in spoiler territory, but yeah, near the end, I well, let me say overall, it's got all the things I love about Ghibli. Beautiful art, like nostalgic and like quaint and rustic feelings, like likable kind of um, thought out characters. You obviously have your goofy characters like the pirates, but honestly, I like the pirates too. They remind me of Castle in the Sky, like they're just the wacky pirates.
Yeah, they're like bad guys, but they're not really because they're all
Yeah,
kind of like goofs, and I'm like,
yeah,
that's nice.
exactly. I can't really take them too seriously.
Yeah,
Um, so just all of that, like when they were the first time they go to the bar, which I think is called like Club Adriano or something. I
yeah.
wasn't writing all this
Yes,
down.
yes, yes. That's it.
But the first time they go there, and it's just like everyone's chilling in this smoky, dark bar, and then there's Gina, the bar owner. She's singing up on stage. Like I felt like I was there, and it made me. It's that same feeling I was talking about earlier, where I was like surrounded by people in downtown Guelph and just like feeling cozy. Like that's the kind of place I want to be, and just sit there and look at the people, have a beer, and just enjoy the culture and the people. It was that's one of my favorite moments, just for like the feeling of it.
Right.
The first time we see that bar. But I think my actual favorite moment is the dogfight at the end between Porco Rosso and Curtis, the American ace pilot.
Yeah.
They do this dogfight, and it's a really cool like plane fight. And then at one point, like spoilers, of course, Porco Rosso is about to finish the fight, but his gun jams. And then Curtis is like, haha, you fool. And then he tries to shoot his gun, and his gun jams.
Yep.
And so I'm like, oh, what's going to happen now? Like, are they going to try and figure out their guns? They fully land their planes, get out of their planes, and then start boxing each other. Yeah. Like, no, this duel is not done until one of us goes down. So it's just a completely different kind of fight. Like, they're fighting in like waist deep water, just absolutely pummeling each other. And I thought that was so fun to watch. It reminded me, have you ever played Metal Gear Solid 4?
Yes.
The fight between Solid Snake and a Revolver Ocelot on the top of the submarine, where they're just like two people just wailing on each other. They just get tireder and tireder, but they keep hitting each other.
Yep.
Because it happens in this. Like, they're like, it's at the point where they're like barely standing and throwing the slowest punches, but still hitting each other. It was so fun, and showed like how there's a lot of stake in that as well, because it like was about the two characters, what they believe in fighting as well. And just showing how evenly matched they were and how like driven they both were. That's my favorite moment, and it's the climax of the movie. So
I would agree, because like, yes, it's really silly that when their guns jam, they're just throwing wrenches at each other and just stupid garbage across from the planes from each other, and it's like most of it's missing, but it's just funny. And then like the whole island, I guess, because it's just a bunch of sky pirates and like whatever.
That's cool.
They're all on board, because they're all like, they have a stake in this, because they're all gambling on who'd win. They're all like, yeah, sure. It's a boxing match now. Someone get a bell. And everyone's so cool. Into it, and it's like, wow, this is so fun. It's so colorful, and it's so like, even though it's like high stakes, quote unquote, you can't help but like smile at it all too. It's just, there's a lot of charm that comes out of it.
And it's, I think it helps that the villain was never a character that you truly despise.
Exactly.
Again, like the characters in this are kind of rounded. So you get an understanding for what Curtis actually wants and like what his reason for fighting is. Although it's kind of, admittedly, and I think he kind of admits it as well, like his reason for fighting is kind of flimsy. He just wants to marry the girl who he just met.
He's in love, he said.
But the fight's not about her even. Like, and like at the end, you don't get the impression that he's like, oh, I feel so bad that I didn't get to marry you, my love. It's just like,
I think this is a good opportunity to talk about the love interests in this movie. We have, and I'm using that loosely because it's not really the focus, although their involvement, two characters, play a large enough role to everybody else in this movie. So we have Gina, which the entire is it Adriatica or something like that's the like something like that. That's the entire like population essentially. Love Gina. She's like the bartender, but she's like, it's like that. Well, I don't have an example, but like literally there's like two females in this entire movie, but there's every male loves her. Like everybody loves her. Like if she says to shut up, everyone will shut up. If she says drinks are on me, everyone cheers wildly. They do anything for Gina. And Gina also has she has feelings for Porco Rosso. So there you go. She loves the pig. But then we have what's her name? It's escaping me. Fio. That's right. She is the mechanic granddaughter or daughter, or is it granddaughter? I can't remember. Of one of the mechanics, the main mechanic. She's very talented. She's 17 years old. And I think this is where the weird stuff starts coming in, which it always does with anime, which is like she's 17, but every old pervert guy just wants to marry her and wants to, they all are crushing on her. Porco Rosso already established that he's around 37 years old ish. And then, he starts blushing whenever the 17-year-old like pecks him on the cheek and like it's stuff like that. But he also talks about her ass a few times, but not in like the gross American way, I guess, or North American way where it's just like, hey, nice ass or whatever. He would just like mention it, be like, her bigger than it seems ass is fitting at the back of my plane over here. And that's why these parts won't fit on my plane. Like there's just like weird comments here and there that are like, this movie has like some, I mean, it's 1930, so it also kind of like you can justify it. And also this movie was made in 1992. We're also talking about like a Japanese studio who views women and females and like how like all that stuff very differently.
Yeah.
But it's also like there's a little bit of like sexism going on here and there.
Absolutely.
And it's like, interesting. You get that too?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I was talking to Tasha about this as well, because I asked her what she thought about it. And she said exactly that, like the sexism in it, like it's understandable because of how in place this movie is like in history.
Yeah.
But it felt unnecessary. Like they could have done better. And like, it's definitely awkward. Like having seen a bunch of Ghibli movies now, like generally they're really good about this. Like very like, there's a lot of protagonists who are women and they're like very much not treated in a sexist way. But having seen a bunch of them, they still have bits of it here and there. Like I mentioned Castle in the Sky earlier. They have the same thing where the main female character shows up on the pirate ship and all the male pirates are like, oh, you're so beautiful, let us date you. And it's like, that's weird. But they address it. I mean, even in that movie, they address it slightly differently because the pirate queen, basically, who's mother to all the pirates, she like ends up talking with her, and like there's a little bit, you can see that there's a little bit more respect, even though it's still awkward and sexist in other ways. So this movie, I think it's probably because, like you said, it's 1992. They hadn't really gotten better about that yet because Ghibli is fairly good about it. But it stands out. And it's a big enough part of the movie that it's awkward. It's not awkward. Just passing comments.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like she arrives on an island later in the movie with Porco Rosso because she becomes partners with him. And the entire island of pirates are like, whoa, you brought a girl? Then like, so there's moments where it's just like, yeah, you got these like weird perverty men and stuff like that. But like, I'm just going to like play devil's advocate for just a second here. Like, I feel as though the studio was like, but look, like she's also a powerful woman too. Like, look how she commands all these men. Look how much she stands up for herself, which she does. She has amazing qualities. Like both characters do. Like they're not, and that's like that complicated thing where, they're treated weirdly and like they objectify them a little bit, but they also empower them too, which is like the weird divide of like, okay, well, you did really good in this area, but also kind of creepy in this other area. Yeah. Because like Theo is a very capable mechanic and they show that, and she's amazing. She's hardworking. She's very likable. And then you have this other bit of it, which is like, oh, this is kind of funky.
Well, with Theo specifically, because there's a moment I like where she, at that scene you're talking about, she stands up to all the pirates. She's shouting in their faces, telling them, no, you can't do that. She realizes she has their attention, and so she's basically bossing them around. And then when they all leave, she's like, that was fucking scary.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's cool because she's like, she stands her ground. She's so strong. And then we see that vulnerable moment where it's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean it didn't affect me. And it's really cool. Like, yeah, it's a really great way to handle that character.
Yeah, but then they have to so she immediately undresses herself, but not in like a super sexy way because it's also 1930s. So she's just basically wearing a white dress after she undresses herself and starts swimming, which is also kind of cute. the way they handle that as someone who's just like having like a kind of like an anxiety attack of some sort that she just needs to cool off. But then you have Porco Rosso being like, oh, she undressed herself to go swimming, and then he starts blushing and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, well, maybe we didn't need to see that part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't sound quite as creepy as you make it, I don't think.
Yeah.
Because he's just like, he's blushing, but like he's not like she got undressed. He turns around and tries to give her privacy, and he
does do that. You're right.
So like I think you do see some growth with him, which makes me think like maybe the studio did try and put these sexist ideas out to challenge them, because Porco Rosso grows for sure. And like talking about an earlier scene, because like we were talking about the sexism of and like how these women are being treated, and then also the empowerment of them. Earlier on in the movie, when Fio first says, "I want to make your plane," and Porco's like, "Fine, do it," and they kind of agree that she'll do it. Like basically all of the women in the city show up to help build the plane.
Yeah.
And it's like a well-oiled machine that this factory they have, and all the women working together to build the plane. And he's like, wait, it's all women? And he's like, well, all the men are off doing other stuff because of the Great Depression.
Right.
And it's just like, Porco Rosso is like, he does have that moment where he's like, I can't believe all women are working on my plane. But then you see them working and they do so well.
Yeah.
Like they've got that factory locked down.
Yeah.
And so it
reminds me of I think Mononoke does this too, where there's just like a bunch of like very strong women who work together to do a thing. Yes, I got that vibe.
Men are lazy.
And the men are lazy, which is, sure. Yeah. And you do see that. You're right. Because like Porco, he goes like first before he agrees, he's like, well, first of all, I don't want you working on this because you're a girl and because you're young. Yeah. And that was definitely a big blocker for him, but he definitely blushes a few times with her, which gets me a little like, it's just fine. Like he never does anything overly creepy, but it feels like he's trying to fight an internal battle with himself not to fall for this 17-year-old, because he blushes enough times. She kisses him on cheek a few times, and then you realize that she's a young girl and she's actually falling for Porco Rosso, which is and she says she loves him and stuff by the end of the movie, which is like, where did this happen? When did this happen?
Yeah, because I agree. Like I didn't that was kind of sudden, where it's like, but what about Fio's feelings for you? And I'm like, what?
Yeah. But I think that comes back to like a young love, right? She was really trying to prove something to somebody, and she puts this man or pig on a pedestal, and those feelings are way bigger than how she actually might feel about this dude. Like he's just special in a way, right? He's also like, it's the first plane she's really got to like build for herself. So there might be a little attachment in that way to Porco, you know?
Yeah. I'm thinking like, in terms of like Porco like blushing too much, and like all the illusions, like don't be a pervert, like, you know, stay away from my granddaughter kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
Like I think they allude to it too much, but I'm just thinking now, like as much as I don't like that and it like is unsavory kind of stuff, I'm also thinking like maybe it's important because of how alone Porco Rosso actually is.
Yeah.
And that's like a big part of his character. Like he literally lives in a hidden cove inside of a mountain. Like no one would ever find him there basically. Although they do, but like he makes a point of basically separating himself from everyone. And we haven't talked much about Gina, but Gina also has strong feelings about Porco Rosso because she knew him before he turned into a pig.
Yeah.
And she feels like she truly knows him, but like he always is kind of standoffish with her as well. And like, I'm pretty sure he has feelings for her, but he won't acknowledge them. He chooses to be alone.
Yeah.
And so it's probably important that there's this person who's kind of attached herself to Porco Rosso, spending time with him, showing him care and love.
Yeah.
That he doesn't normally get. And we have that moment where his face turns back to normal. And for me, that's kind of about, I guess, feeling loved, and feeling comfortable.
Yeah. Because we get that a lot in this movie where he's feeling quite alone. And he talks about his backstory of how they're basically in this big giant dogfight, and like I guess his best friend or his main buddy, they all die essentially. And you get like this imagery of like they're all in the clouds, but everyone else is flying higher. And he's just like, I think I saw hell or whatever it is. And he's just like, well, I guess I'm just destined to kind of be alone. So I guess I can totally see where you're coming from with this too. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's a key moment. That's like his story of like what happened in the war. And like, yeah, he sees the planes, he sees the afterlife, and he sees all of the planes that have been shot down and all the people who lost their lives. The movie, like maybe now's we could talk about Gina more, but this feels like a good point to talk about kind of like the themes of the movie, because it felt like definitely anti-war, anti-fascist.
Sure.
I wrote down a quote where he's talking to his friend who's in the Italian, is he police or Air Force?
Something like that, like government body, something.
Yeah. But his friend is telling Porco Rosso that like, you know, there's a warrant out for your arrest. You should just come back to the Air Force so that they don't arrest you. And Porco Rosso says, I wrote down this quote, better a pig than a fascist.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so interesting because then the secret police come after him. It's like he refuses to like basically be a part of Italy now because 1929, I don't know my history that well, but I imagine that they're starting to move towards fascism during World War II. And his experiences with war, seeing everyone he cared about die and him surviving.
Yeah.
It's
there's a lot. Yeah, there's this movie is only an hour and a half too, and they do throw in these themes that you're like a little surprised about for this type of movie. And I was definitely surprised to see and like maybe we should definitely talk about this because we're getting towards the end of our talk here, but like let's talk about like him himself and this whole idea of like turning himself into a pig, which I had to like look up a little bit. Yeah, I looked up a little bit. So I'm like, what happened? So in the movie, they don't explicitly say that.
I have some thoughts about this, and I wonder if you telling me exactly what happens will.
Well, I don't know if this is true. So this is all like, I guess, speculative, like kind of stuff. Yeah. And then let's hear your version, and I can tell you mine, if you will. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So yeah. I didn't imagine that he turned himself into a pig, but he talks about this moment where he saw the afterlife, and he's a man. He's a man at the time when that's happening. And then early on in the movie, he's talking to Gina, and Gina says, it's a shame we never found a way to reverse the spell that transformed you. And I get the idea that he doesn't want to turn back the spell either. He's definitely chosen isolation and being alone. And so for me, I kind of had this realization that it's probably the moment of seeing the afterlife and seeing everyone die that caused him to change. Like that's the only like really fantastical or dramatic thing that seems like it could reasonably be considered a spell. So my assumption is that him turning into a pig is a metaphor for PTSD.
Interesting.
Like it changed him. It's kind of made him a bit of an outcast. He prefers to be alone now. Like that was my opinion or my thought on how it happened.
Right. So you're not too far off from what I've seen here, but I'll give you what I saw and read, which is he was disillusioned with humanity, probably after everything that he's gone through, and he cursed himself to be a pig. This is a quote from Miyazaki, actually. When a man becomes middle-aged, he becomes a pig. So it's... I think it like everything it says, he has a lot of baggage and it made him quit being a human. Right. Hence the whole isolation, wanting to be alone. He's just like, fuck it. I'm a pig. Like that's it. And it kind of goes to like everything that you're talking about, like the moments when he starts feeling like humans aren't so bad type of thing is when he starts reverting back to his human form.
Yeah.
And the theory is like at the very end of the movie, and you kind of get this too. You have Theo, who kisses him on the lips as she's flying away. And
Princess
Curtis
and the
is
Frog
like,
style is what her thought there was.
yeah, well, Curtis was like, hey, let me see your face. And you assume that he's a human again, or at least his face is either temporarily a human or he's gone full human now, which is an interesting thing. So he's like accepted that there are good people in the world, which I think is really interesting that they never really focus on the magic element of this pig thing. So like whether I mean, it sounds like both of our things are kind of like interrelated here. It just sounds like yeah, he's a pig, something about humanity and all this other stuff and PTSD, whatever. Yeah. But like, there's no sorcerer. There's no like magic potion that he has to like fight to get to become human or anything like that. It's just what it is.
Yeah. And yeah, like him being a pig doesn't seem to have any actual relevance on the movie other than that people call him a pig, which like you said, if men grow older and become pigs, like, he didn't have to literally be a pig for any of this dialogue to work.
Yeah, it's true.
But that's why I think it's a stronger metaphor than it is a plot point.
Yes, exactly.
But very interesting. Yeah. And then at the very end, Theo's doing the narration at the end, like, you know, like a decade later, like the pirates still come around the club to see Gina. Theo's become she actually runs the whole like mechanic shop where they make planes now. But she says, we never saw Porco again. Yeah. And whether or not Gina saw him again in her garden because she was waiting for him there, she says, well, that's a secret that they won't tell, that she won't tell. And so my immediate thought on watching that was maybe he did turn back. And so the reason why they never saw Porco again is because his real name was Marco.
Yeah.
So he could have turned back and just gone back to society. But like, I don't know, after this conversation, being disillusioned with people, better a pig than a fascist, like, I do want it's open to interpretation. Like, you could see why at the end he would choose to be a pig.
Yeah, I also got that as well, though. Like he might have ended up with Gina at the end or whatever. He like saw her and like he is now Marco. But I guess it's such a weird thing to be like a Ghibli film, an hour and a half movie about a pig pilot, whatever. Like you're getting these like, well, what actually happened at the end? It's like, whoa, what are we doing here? And I think that's really cool that we get to theory craft a little bit of like, what's the true ending of Porco Rosso? I guess we'll never know. But I had a similar thing with you that like, I think that they open it up in that way of just saying, hey, what do you think happened? And then there's discussion that can happen after this movie, which is really rad. Yeah.
It's definitely prompting the conversation.
Definitely. Is there any final things you want to say about Porco Rosso?
Good movie.
Good movie. Yeah, it is a good movie. And how would you rate this movie?
I rate this movie 6 Sky Pirates out of 8.
Wow. I will rate this movie 10 jammed guns over a boxing match in the ocean. That's mine rating. There you go.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Jake, what a lovely conversation we had talking about pigs and pilots and all this other stuff. It was just so great to catch up with you. Yeah, do you have any plugs for the people at home?
Before I plug, I remembered there's 2 other movies that I've seen from Ghibli that I wanted to mention. And the reason I want to mention them is because they're 2 of the best, and somehow I forgot them. Princess Mononoke, as we were talking about earlier, but also The Secret World of Ariete. Mm-hmm. I think that one actually might be my favorite, and somehow I forgot about it. That one is amazing. Yes. Anyways, I just wanted to throw that in there before I left. So in terms of plugs, I'm not really doing anything like comedy or podcast or anything related right now, but I do want to plug some of your listeners may know recently the Making Box decided that they're going to be giving up their physical theater space, and they're giving it up to a new theater co-op that is being created to take the space. I've been helping get that set up. And we're going to be needing fundraising soon to make it happen. We currently have social media and a mailing list. So if you want to help support a local cooperative theater in Guelph, find us on Facebook at the GPAC. That's Guelph Performing Arts Co-op. It may be the Guelph PAC. But you can also email Guelph Co-op Theater at gmail.com and ask to be on the mailing list. There's going to be a website up soon, and there's a link tree that I don't have the link available, but I can send it to you and you can include it.
Sure. Yeah.
In the podcast notes.
I love it. Yes. Support it. It's such an exciting thing happening in Guelph soon. And if you're like, I'm itching to get back on stage or just see live performance and support all of that, we mentioned this before. It's happening. We're so freaking close. We're going to see it. We're going to be able to make out without our freaking make out cameras. We don't need that anymore. So
I'm keeping mine.
Okay.
Just in case. But
yeah.
I'll also be doing the kissing in meat space.
If you're kissing two cameras at the same time, are you kissing yourself? Probably, right?
Oh, goodness. Oh, that's something to think about.
This is a bigger cliffhanger than Porco Rosso's entry. For myself, you can find the rest of the shows in the Pod Cavern at www.podcavern.com. Check out all the shows there. Get some merch, do some things, listen to all the shows here. We have fantastic episodes coming out every single week. And with that, that's the end of our show this week. You can join us next week on another episode of Talking Tongue. But before that, I'm pretty sure Jake has a world famous catchphrase.
Yeah, my world famous catchphrase. I've walked by this place a few times, but I've never been in it.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.